This should be now fine. Now, everyone, can you hear me in the main chat? Oh, good. Thank you, everybody, for confirming. Apologies. There's so many functions. So for somebody who teaches technology, this is rather embarrassing, but I hope and I'm fairly certain that you will forgive me. Now, I'm going to go to my slides now, which you will hopefully see at this point. So I won't be able to look at your chat just now whilst I've got the slide page open. So forgive me if there are questions. I'll periodically go back to the chat section. So we're talking about web analytics. Now, if you go way back before advertising, in the early days of advertising, you used to have, well, I suppose you would have, back in the day, messages from the government and news, and this would be communicated to everybody through the form of a town crier who would come to your town, stand in the middle, and in Britain they would ring a bell and shout, "Hear ye," and explain things. People would maybe put a sign up outside their shop. And when advertising really started in the 17th, 18th centuries, you would find adverts in the newspapers of the day, and coming with the growth of the industrial age in the 18th, 19th century, you had essentially one of the biggest areas of advertising was the billboard. And the function of the billboard, just something which everyone would look at when they happen to be walking down that particular street, is not that different from what came much later with the age of the internet, which is, of course, the banner ad on a website. Now, the banner ad on a website and the billboard are both founded in the same way around the idea of trying to get or trying to measure how many eyeballs how many eyeballs had seen your advert. And this idea was in fact exploited back in 2005 by a student who, for one of his assignments, decided to create what he called a $1 million homepage, where he sold each pixel for $1. And all it is, it's just banners, some of them from as jokes, some of them are real, legitimate adverts from people. And they, I think, bought them in packs, a minimum pack of 12. That'd be 12 pixels. Obviously, some of them are several hundred or even 1,000 pixels in size. So if we start talking about all these areas of digital marketing, when you're looking at websites, you have to start thinking about the actions. What do you want from your online advertising? So the online advertising is essentially got 5 main areas that you would want from an advert or from a website. First off is lead generation. This should be quite obvious, certainly for any business to business, but it doesn't have to be. It could be business to consumer. So if you are, for example, interested in doing a Masters in Business Administration, an MBA, you might go to a business school website and you might download the brochure. You would, for example, enter your email address, your name, and this would be a lead for the business school to then follow up with you regarding giving you more information about the MBA, which is obviously many tens of thousands of dollars. You might go to a car website and leave information there, and the car website then knows that you're interested in this brand of cars and would then follow up with further information if they are doing their job correctly. And of course, most business-to-business websites, a lot of business-to-business commerce is based on relationships, but to create new business is often very difficult, and it requires lead generation. You need to find out who is interested before you can do anything else. Another thing that you can do with your website would be online sales. This, in the most obvious version, would be something like Amazon, which would you go and you purchase something quite literally on the website. Create buzz. This might be that you want your website to be talked about. You want people to share things, share information about your products and services. So you would, for example, have a good amount of content on there, and you would then want to measure how people are sharing it to Twitter or to Facebook, etc. You then have drive footfall. This means that you want people to come to your physical bricks and mortar store in the high street. So you might have that car advert, but you don't want people to buy a car online. You want them to come to your car showroom to then be able to look at what you to test drive one of the cars. And finally, you have customer loyalty. So we want to make sure that our customers are loyal and they come back. So we want to be able to see if they are return visitors. Are they sharing are they ambassadors? Are they sharing the website and the information with their friends and families and their colleagues? Now, these are the main actions you will find from any website. And if you have a website and you don't have an action, then there's no point having a website. If you just put the website up because you thought, oh, this would be fun. We need a website. We're an organization. We might do consulting, but so we're going to talk about ourselves and we'll put all the information and our customers can find this information. That's wonderful. It's not a very good website if you don't have an action that you intend to get from this. And the action would generally be one of these. So it would be, for example, in the case of consulting, it would most likely be lead generation. You want people to find out how good your consulting firm is and then contact you to find out further information about possibly hiring your services. If you have a website showing what cars you have, you want to drive footfall. If you are a site which has lots of good content, you want to create buzz. So how are we going to achieve all these different actions? What channels are we going to use for online advertising? Essentially, it's all of these things which hopefully will not be completely strange to any of you. Software product update, that's an interesting one. I have to flip back to be able to see that comment, but to go back as an action, a software product update, I would put down as an online sale. So it is a product update. You might get it for free, but there's the company still wants you to do something. So what they're doing there is they're getting your customer loyalty because they are making sure that you're getting updates, so you're not going to a different software brand, for example. You might require them to spend money and upgrade, and therefore that would be sales. So SEO. Let me go through these one by one. So SEO, search engine optimization. We're going to talk a bit about that in a moment. PPC, this is pay per click. These are the AdWords. Email, so if you have email, direct email marketing to people, it's not just spam. Some of it is spam, but most email marketing is not. And it is very effective, which is why every organization still does email marketing. It's a good way of getting your message to people that you know are interested in you. Search engine optimization is to try and appear high in Google. Pay-per-click is to be able to have your adverts appear when people are searching on you. There must be some related content. A banner or display ad, such as the one we just looked at, this one here. This is the banner display. Targeted ads on Facebook or LinkedIn. These are slightly different from pay-per-click, although you might only pay when someone clicks on them. They are different in that the pay-per-click will usually be through search or through content, such as on Google, and we will talk about that a bit later. But the targeted ads on Facebook and LinkedIn are going to be involved, focus on demographics. So, for example, if you have a campaign and want to talk to people who you've got a product which is a software management, project management system for software developers in large organizations around the world, then you'll be able to go on LinkedIn and target software project managers, software engineers in certain sized companies, etc. Your viral marketing is very, very difficult to do. Some people do it very well. BuzzFeed is very good at viral marketing and being able to create content rather than marketing, but create content that gets shared around. And so there's the question of, well, if you manage to create the content that's interesting, then how can you attach your marketing message to that? Mobile, of course, a lot of people are now accessing their internet through mobile. Even more people are accessing in certain parts of the world through mobile than through the desktop now. Now that can be through the browser on the mobile, as it would be on the desktop, but it can also involve going directly to apps. And therefore, if you have a personal app on your for your company, for your service, your product, or maybe your whole product is the app rather than the app to access the service, you have to consider that as a channel. But it also means that you can get advertising out to your potential customers through other apps. And finally, as I mentioned, the website. So, Hannah says forums and blogs are useful to funnel potential customers. They are indeed. They are, but this is slightly different because a blog, a forum, and a blog, these are still fundamentally still fundamentally websites. So if you have a blog, then if it's associated to your company, to your website, you have to be very clear what the purpose is. You have to make sure that the blog is a separate channel from your website, but they should still that you should still manage both of them very carefully and track them and compare the analytics. So, search engine optimization. Now, this has had an interesting history. I'm sure some of you will recognize this. Actually, this screen grab, Google has changed it a little since I took this one, but they changed their logo and they changed a couple of other things, but the fundamentals are still there. So, when you search on digital marketing, you will see paid ads at first from digital agencies. So you have, I can just move that across, you have AdWords on the top, which is now shaded, and on the right-hand side. And the organic search is the main body. So the search engine optimization that we referred to before is in section 3. These are the organic listings that Google and Bing and the other search providers such as Yandex and Baidu in China and so on. Google is still the big dominant player globally. So they all work on the same principle. And search engine optimization is to make sure that your website appears as high as possible in the natural rankings from Google. However, that can be extremely difficult. There is a lot that you need to do to be able to achieve a high ranking in your search engine optimization. So one of the ways that you can try and leapfrog this and make sure that your page does appear for the appropriate search term that you have is to pay for an AdWord on Google, which would appear in position 1 or 2 on the screen that you can see now, which the exact position you have there would depend on how much you are willing to spend, on your AdWord for every person who clicks. So you will have some industries, for example, car insurance, which is highly competitive with AdWords. You would end up spending easily £30 per click. But prices have been going down a little over the last year, and if you are not in one of those very highly competitive industries, you can get an AdWord for sometimes 50p per click, which, if you think about it, of course, is an extremely cheap way to get a lead, as long as it's a proper targeted one. So, a question which is going to be difficult for me because I have to keep popping back and forth. So, I've got a couple of people asking questions. Reem, you didn't understand something. Okay, well, do please type it down. I will try to answer you. Sarah, could I please explain viral marketing a bit more? Viral marketing is a term that a lot of people use, and very few people do it properly. Viral marketing is when you produce, Sarah W, you produce some content, your agency produces, your marketing department produces some content which you put onto the internet. Now you put it on social media such as Facebook, you can post it on Twitter, it could be directly from your website. And you somehow are able to get people to send this, they like your content so much that they share it with all their friends. They share it globally, they send it out to their friends and their friends send it out. So usually it revolves around humor. It sometimes revolve around celebrities, and it's quite difficult to do. It can be done. Some people have done it very well, but many have tried and failed miserably. So because you might produce content that you think is wonderful, but it doesn't actually get shared by people in the way that you want it. Mohammed and Reem, by the way, of course, I'm afraid I'm unable to do this. So, sir, you wondered about techniques. The techniques, fundamentally, along with everything which I'm going to get onto, it depends. So if you have viral marketing, you want to do some viral marketing, you have to produce the content first. Produce content that is going to go viral is not easy. So it might be a very, very addictive game, which is somehow tied into your business. So if, for example, I was talking about a business school earlier, if your business school managed to produce a very addictive game on trivia that you were able to get points, for example, and if you answered the questions in the right way, then you had a virtual team and you were able to build them and you became a better manager in this little game. Or, of course, you might end up failing miserably. If this was done in a fun and exciting way, then people might want to play it with each other, share it with each other, and say, play this game, it's quite fun. Look, apparently I'm a chief executive, and someone else says, well, I've ended up working in the post room. So you have to make this content, which is interesting and people want to use, but you then also have to make sure that your message, your core brand, is somehow tied into that. So there wouldn't be much point, for example, in promoting a car with a game about how to decorate your house. Someone might manage to do that, but there's not a very good brand connection. So exactly, something like Farmville would be a good example. Back to the slides now. So which area of the page does search engine optimization affect? 1, 2, 3. What is the main factors affecting search engine optimization? Now, let me just see how many of you are here. Okay, so we've got quite a few dozen people here. So the search engine optimization, it fundamentally comes down to popularity. That's it. If you've got a popular website, you'll be higher in the search engine rankings than if you do not have a popular website. How does Google measure if your site is popular? Well, they don't look around and see how many friends you have, because if you're like me, you have no friends, so that would count. But what they do is they find out the most important thing. There are other technical factors to take into account. The structure of the website is important, the speed with which it opens. They're measuring the keyword analysis of your site, comparing it to the terms that people are searching on, etc. All kinds of technical issues which a lot of programmers, coders, developers don't understand, unfortunately, which is why there's a lot of search engine optimization companies, good ones and average ones. But the most important part for search engine optimization is popularity. Google decided, they realized back in 1998, I believe it was, Sergey Brin and Larry Page, they realized that you can judge how good a website is on a topic by how many other websites link to it about that topic. So if you look at the example I have on the screen now, the search term digital marketing produced the most popular page for this is Wikipedia's page on digital marketing. This makes sense. This is because more people are linking to the Wikipedia page on digital marketing with the terms, the anchor text, or digital marketing than they are to mobilestorm.com, which is in number 2 position. eConsultancy.com in number 3 has slightly fewer, and then McKinsey Quarterly in number 4. To get into the top 10 of Google is extremely difficult, and if it's on a very, very specific term like digital marketing, you can hope to get there, but it's not easy. So sometimes what you need to do is think about other terms that your customers might be also using to search for you. So for example, they might not be looking for digital marketing. They might be looking for a digital marketing strategy, digital marketing agency in London, things like this. And you are then able to focus a little better. If you go to Google, they do have a starter guide for SEO, and I will just quickly go through the different things that they talk about. So they talk about the SEO basics, about how to create unique and accurate page titles. So you want each page title to be unique. You want it to say what it does. If you have an e-commerce site selling music, you don't just want the reference for in your catalog as the page title with saying product number equals 36521, because Google isn't very good at understanding that 36521 is in fact your copy of the Beatles' White Album. So you would want to include, where possible, the words Beatles and the words White Album in that page title, so it was extremely obvious to Google that that's what the page was about. So this is both the title and in the URL, the link you have at the top. You make use of the description meta tag. This is technical things behind. You have to use, improve your site structure. You have to make sure that everything is consistent, that you have used the correct headers so that Google understands what is the important content on your page. Improve the structure of the URLs, as I just explained. You have to make your site easy to navigate. This means that when the Google spiders, little coded robots, go down through your site, are they able to move through all the pages easily by going from one page to another through links? One of the ways to do this is to have a sitemap, because this means that every page on the website is no more than 2 clicks away from every other page. You want to optimize your content, that is very, very relevant to on that page, and you don't repeat yourselves over lots of pages. You want to have quality content and services, write better anchor text. The anchor text is when you have the text that is for a link. You should never use click here. Click here doesn't mean anything. If you say you can find more information about search engine optimization here, that would be the anchor text, and then when that whole phrase would be a link that people would click through to get the PDF from Google. You optimize your use of images, make sure that they're too large, make sure they're not too small, make sure that they have an alt text, which is something that's important for accessibility. I don't want to go too much detail on this. And you have to use your header tags appropriately. Then there's back-end information here, which is very much for the developers. So making effective use of robots.txt. So make sure that you haven't inadvertently blocked Google's little robots, the spiders, from accessing your website and changing it. If you have no follow for links, then it won't follow the link. So make sure you're not aware of using that. And then also you need to think about mobile. So is your website responsive? Can it be seen easily on a mobile? Or does it suddenly look all out of size? You can't see things properly. You have to keep zooming in and out. So you also need to think about how you guide mobile users, promotion analysis, promote your website in the right ways, and the promotion. Excuse me, just that bit there though, promotion and analysis, fundamentally comes down to how can you get other people to link to you. That is the most important. Now, if all of you on this call, 30 people, all have a website, and you suddenly start linking to my website, technowaffle.com, and you use the anchor text digital marketing, then that will improve my ranking in Google within 2 days, 3 days, guaranteed. If I have 300 people doing the same thing, that will improve it yet more. 3,000, I'll start probably to appear in the front page of the Google rankings. So one of the big things that the SEO companies do is work out how to get other websites to link to the content on your website. And that's not an easy thing to do. Sometimes it's about finding useful content which they can post. So getting bloggers to write about whatever it is you have on your site that you're promoting. If you have products, it might be easier. If you're doing services, that might be more difficult. So you have to produce white papers. You get people to talk about the white papers. Or you just produce an infographic, which is one of the most popular ways now. Produce an infographic that's on a particular topic or question that's in the zeitgeist. So when you're talking about the SEO basics, search engine optimization basics, we need to think about the domain name, the metadata, how it can be viewed on different platforms, so mobile, tablet, different browsers, and so on. You need to think about the platform, the content management system. Does it make it for easy updates and updating? Are you able to enter the metadata carefully? The information architecture that you have there, the content, and then there's the relevancy, which is again about the content. So this is true with video as well as text. Is the video relevant? Is it embedded from YouTube? and how relevant is it on YouTube, how you use your images, and audio is important, and how fast you are. So a lot of the companies now who deal with um, a lot of companies now who have hosting sites, they do servers, they are selling themselves very much on the idea that you need to have a faster server to serve your website up, because the faster you are, the better Google like you. And this is absolutely true. Now, a lot of companies now they won't go for a specific server. They will go to a main company such as Amazon Web Services, who will do the hosting for you. So it depends on the size of your organization, but this is something certainly that chief technology officers would be looking at. And then we have, as I say, the authority, what they call the authority. So if you link to me on digital marketing and I have 300 people linking to me, Google says, well, clearly, Ronan Grunbaum, Sealtree, on his website, technowaffle.com, is an authority on this subject, because 300 people are linking to him on this, 3,000 or 300,000 people. So this means when you have links from different places, this includes social media. This also we also need to talk about the user experience. So what are your goals? As I said before, we need a goal for every web page, and you need to have a conversion. Are you trying to measure eyeballs or clicks? So do you want to just see how many people have visited your site and have seen your banner ad, or how many people have clicked on your particular ad? One thing to be aware of, don't try and use too many keywords. So if you think, oh, I'm going to optimize my website for digital marketing, and you put digital marketing in every paragraph, Google is going to end up saying this is nonsense. It's completely unreadable jargon. Their algorithms are very good at identifying what is good and what is not. So you have to be careful not to do too much, but you must ensure that your keywords, your core keywords, are there. And you don't want to purchase links, because Google knows about that. They know the places where you might go to purchase links, to get people to link to you. They know the websites that are involved, and so if they find that there's a link that they believe to be purchased, they will not only stop judging that link, but they will also penalize you as a result. So another thing that's quite important, of course, is knowing your customer. So very clearly, if you want to try and reach a customer, make sure that if they are Jewish or Muslim, you're not trying to sell them ham, as an example. It's quite important to know your customers, because if you know your customer, then you can know what to do with your website. When you know what to do with your website, then you can start measuring properly and seeing where to improve and where not to improve. So, one question: do you think subliminal advertising works? Yes or no, please, on the chat. Yeah, when I'm saying purchasing links, I mean yes, on other websites, Sarah. And wonderful, you all seem to think that subliminal advertising works. It is illegal in many countries. It's illegal in Britain to use subliminal advertising, but people still use it. If you go into a supermarket, it's not subliminal advertising as such. You don't have a secret message going to buy this, buy this, buy this. The supermarkets would have worked with the brands who pay the money to ensure that the produce that's at the end of the aisle, which is more popular, the supermarket will charge more money, and it will work better. That is quite subliminal. The supermarkets will bake bread, even though they might not have a big bread section. They will even pump the smell of bread through the supermarket, because it makes you want to go in and buy things more. So lots of organizations are involved with subliminal marketing. Not necessarily a good thing, and it's illegal in many countries. But it's worth thinking about, because there are ways that you can get your messaging quite easily. Now, onto online advertising. I'm going to be going through quite a few words, glossary, because it is quite essential, so that when you're talking to your agency, for example, about analytics, you need to know the stuff that you need to ask. So this would be, for example, all the things I mentioned before. We're going to look first at PPC, pay-per-click, CPM, This is the cost per thousand. This is the actual cost per thousand. So pay-per-click is when people go search for your ad, and they search for something on Google, and they click on your ad. And if they click on your ad, you pay. If they don't click on your ad, you never have to pay Google. Cost per thousand, CPM, is when you usually use for banners. So when you show your banner ad, you would pay a fee for every 1,000 times this appears. So that every 1,000 impressions. So for example, this would be maybe you pay £20 to have 1,000. Your banner would appear 1,000 times. So that means 1,000 times that someone went to that website. It might be the same person, it might be different people, and your ad appeared. It might only appear for a few seconds, but that would be then £20. This is to be differentiated from the effective cost per thousand, which is the cost of getting 1,000 impression views based on your earnings so far. So it's calculated by dividing the total earnings by the total number of impressions in thousands. It's a performance measure for your various ad units to see which ad placement gets more clicks. Excuse me. Now, impression. This is one show of an ad online. So when I referred earlier to the CPM, this is cost per thousand for 1,000 impressions. So an impression is just one show of an ad online. I suppose you would have if I put this in slightly different order, but I'm sure you manage it. So this is a measure of exposure, not engagement. All you know is that people have seen your ad. They might not have taken it in at all, but they've seen your ad. So it's like the billboard in your high street. A click is obviously how many times a user has clicked on a link or clicked on an advert. It's a measure of engagement, not exposure. And CTR, the click-through rate. The click-through rate is how many times someone has, when you look at the number of people who have seen your ad, for example, your pay-per-click ad, and how many people have actually clicked on it. Now, the click-through rate for an AdWord campaign on Google, if you manage to achieve more than 5% of the click-through rate, that means 5 people in every 100 who see your ad click on it. That would be an excellent return. You'll often have campaigns where it would be maybe 0.5%. So that's 5 people in every 1,000 who see the ad would actually click on it. And that might be fine. It depends on if the people who are clicking on your ad are truly interested in your product and service, then that's the most important thing. So now we're going to conversion. This is the customer takes the action that you want. So this might be to fill out a form, download a brochure, share something on social media, contact you via email or through the online form, add something to the basket or to a wish list, purchase something, etc. Excuse me. The acquisition is the target audience when the target audience becomes a firm prospect for signing up for more information. So, of course, you then have the question of the CPC and the CPA, which is the cost per conversion and the cost per acquisition. So how much does it cost you to get the customer to do what you want? So you might have, for example, 5 people clicking through on your pay-per-click advert, going to your website. So that would be 5 people, and imagine you pay £1 for each click. So it's £5 or $5 that you paid to get the people to deliver, so to go to your website. What do you want them to do on your website? You want them to download a brochure. Well, maybe only one person downloads the brochure. So that would be £5. The cost per conversion would be £5, because even though you had 5 people coming through, you only had one of those people actually downloading. And the cost per acquisition is a similar thing. So when the target audience becomes the firm prospect. So if you had the 5 people go to your website and only one person actually signs up for the form for more information, then that again would be a £5 cost, not a £1 cost, because you had to pay for all those other people, of course, who've come to your website, but they weren't, in the end, they didn't do what you wanted. You haven't acquired them as customers. So this can be measured for each conversion, or you could aggregate it across a whole campaign. We can go back and see if there are any questions. Yes, okay, good. Looks like everyone's all right there. So we'll go on to the ROI. So now the return on investment, you know all about this. Now this incorporates all costs, including agency fees, design, staff costs. So you might have a AdWord campaign where you only have £1 per click cost for people who click through, but you also have to bear in mind the people that you have in your office who actually have to write the content, go through the AdWord, the keyword analysis, post the content, manage the campaign with Google. Obviously, this takes time. It could be several hours, days, weeks, months of a staff member or for an agency. If you have any banner ads, obviously, this has to incorporate all the costs for your agency to design your banner or for a video on YouTube, etc. You have contextual ads. Now these can be mobile or web, and this is when you position content. Excuse me, your ad would appear next to the content on the website. So, for example, if you went to the Financial Times and you saw an article about the growth of the digital marketing agency, and next to it you saw an advert which was perhaps through Financial Times, perhaps through Google, specifically talking about digital marketing agencies, that ad would appear there because it's contextual, because it has identified that there's text in the content that refers to digital marketing, which is what you are your keywords, and so people will then see your ad next to the content, so it is most relevant. Now, the click-through rates on contextual ads tend to be far, far lower than on search ads. This is because when people are searching, they clearly are interested in your digital marketing agency. If people are reading an article in the Financial Times, they might not be interested in actually signing up an agency. They might be working for an agency, for example. So the click-through rates are going to be far lower, but it's not to say that they are not worth exploring anyway. And then we have idle screen advertising. Now, with the growth of broadband becoming so ubiquitous globally, this is much less common than it used to be, but you will still see it sometimes. This is the ad that is served while the user waits for a page or an app to load or to process. So you will still find some things like this when you go to certain websites such as Forbes.com. You have a big, big ad taking over the page before you can go through to the actual website. Very intrusive. Personally, I dislike them intensely, but I'd be very interested to see the statistics that they have for those, because I'm sure they are quite good money earner for the organization. And then we have mobile, specific things for mobile. Some companies, some people will still access the internet from their mobile phone through the app on their phone for their particular mobile phone provider, so which might be, for example, Vodafone or T-Mobile or whoever it might be. Now, if you go through this provider, then what they do is they have the branded portal, if you like, or branded browser. They put the advertising there. Certainly in the old days, and if you're still in a region where this is not, people don't have 3G or 4G, and they are still using relatively simple telephones, they're not smartphones necessarily, you might find that this is actually still very, very good, because it tends to be a far more efficient type of advertising. People found that there was 90% more downloads from a deck, on-deck advertising, than through the other areas. And also titles on the first page of a deck saw 53% more downloads, which is very similar, as you would expect, to Google. If you appear in the top pages with Google, then you will have far, far more clicks from people who search than if you're in position number 10 or on the second page, fifth page, 10th page, and so forth. And off-deck advertising, this of course is mobile ads delivered through mobile browser while surfing. So this is what we tend to see more of now. When people go on their mobile phone through the browser, they go through the internet, and they'll see an ad. Now, they might see the same ad that appears on the website anyway, but of course there are some that you might find that there's a specific ad is delivered only to the mobile. So if you go into Google's AdWords, for example, you can specify that you only want to deliver your adverts to people on mobiles. And this might be very relevant, for example, if you want people when they are out and about in the streets. You don't want people on their desktops because you are talking about a product or service that is going to be relevant to them. Moving on, some more mobile. This is the segmentation. So different ways you can segment people when you're talking about mobile advertising. Excuse me. So the demographics, obviously, if you are able to find out if it's male, female, old, young, if you know their income. You can't necessarily guess an income from the quality of the mobile phone, but you might from the usage. You might be able to identify from what they've previously purchased and so on, whether they are high earners or low earners. The things they are searching on, you can certainly make some kind of assumptions on that. The time that they are accessing the internet. So do you want people to see your ad only when they're going to work in the morning, during lunchtime, after work? Are you aiming it at students, in which case you might want a different thing? Do you want it only in the evenings when people are out and about, 3 o'clock in the morning? You can specify this. You can specify location, so only within 2 miles of central London, for example. You people would only receive the advert. And this is, of course, useful if you're talking about a product or service which is very, very specific to that area. You have, of course, websites, so people would be able to, you can identify which websites people go to, and then they would see the adverts, in Google's case, from AdSense, which is the contextual ads. You can divide people by their handset groups, so are they Android users, are they Windows users, are they Apple users, etc. And you can make assumptions about that and sell different kinds of products as a result. And it's not just, of course, but it might be downloading the app for your website, for your particular brand, for your website. How could one market to potential patients? Sarah asks. Now, that's actually a very, very Google Ads, by the way. Sorry, John. Google Ads are contextual. Google Ads in AdSense are contextual when they appear on the content next to a website. So you can go into Google AdWords and then you select AdSense contextual ads, and then you can actually select the websites specifically or generically where you want your ad to appear. And they are, it can be the same ads that would appear when people search for your information, but they can also do different ads. And Google allow you to do banner ads now for contextual advertising as well. So it's things have grown a lot more. To answer Sarah's question, how could one market to potential patients? There's all kinds of restrictions on how one markets to patients, but I will give you a hint of some research I did 3 years ago, in a pharmaceutical organization in Northern Europe, where you're not allowed to specifically market to patients. You're not allowed to market pharmaceuticals, to patients. And what the salespeople in the organization had to do was identify the places where people were having conversations about a particular disease, a particular area of their health issue. So people would identify these places. For example, it might be a Facebook group, a LinkedIn, it might be a forum, it might be a Twitter, it might be a website, blog, whatever it might be. Then people will congregate generally in 1 or 2 or 3 areas to talk about these things. And then the salespeople had to just watch for 1 year. That was all they were required to do. And it was part of their performance appraisal to observe what was happening in the circles that people are talking about. And then bit by bit, the following year, they were then incentivized to start to talk to patients. But it really depends on what you're doing. If you want to just sell patients a set of plasters, there are things one can do and one cannot do. But for example, it's a very simple way of identifying how people are going to be, a simple way of identifying how people are going to be, a simple way of identifying people in hospital is you could do location within within 1 kilometer of a hospital, for example. You can make an assumption of the location. You might have demographic information. You might have information on what they've been searching for. So if they're searching on hemorrhoids, then you can make a good assumption that they or someone close to them are suffering from hemorrhoids. And so you will have your adverts appear there saying hemorrhoid cream next to those search terms. So there are different things that you can do, but I would, of course, do check the legislation in your country, because there are great restrictions in some countries on how you're able to do this. And of course, websites, you could do contextual ads if it's a website based on, as I say, hemorrhoids or cancer or people with ingrown toenails, whatever the issue might be. The handset group we've talked about. Carriers also, so you can specify, for example, I only want to market to people with the Vodafone on the Vodafone carrier, or on T-Mobile, or on Sprint, or on 3 or EE, or whichever one is dominant in your country. So you might specify or have specific ads just for those particular ones. You might find that you have a relationship with only one of those organizations, and so you can offer a specific discount to people from that mobile carrier. So based on this, I ask you now, and please just if you can write out into the chat box, are there any other segments or sub-segments that you would find useful? So medical tourism, that's interesting actually, because I did a project there on medical tourism about a year ago. 2 years ago, we were looking at working with Google. We're doing a project on how to increase the options for people searching for medical tourism, and how can therefore they improve the advertising. So Google gets them on for advertising and so on, but obviously they know very well that they have to deliver a good product and service to the end user. So it would be a question then of if someone's looking for fertility treatment, there's no reason why you can't then have an advert coming up saying fertility treatment free, free tests, or a free consulting session at the clinic that you have in the centre of London, or come to Barcelona where it's much cheaper, or in Hungary, or wherever that might be. And the beautiful, and you're not ambulance chasing, as it were. So, okay, let's move on. We're coming up to about the hour mark. Excuse me while I just flick across from one page to the other. There's just one small technical thing, which is why I showed it in this way, but I can't then see the screen that you are seeing. So, we now have mobile versus web and average click-through rates. So, mobile advertising, it's worth bearing in mind, it has far greater click-through rates than traditional online banners. Online banners will have between 0.02% and 0.05%. So that's between 2 and 5 people every 10,000. So 10,000 people have seen your banner, and only 2 or 5 people will actually click through. Whereas with banners, it's between 1 and 3 per 100. Much, much better. So depending on what you're doing, it is really worth considering the mobile. So let's look a little bit at what expectations a customer might have. So we have to understand the customer's expectations when they come on a website, make clear promises on service, deliver on those promises, and deliver on those promises. So essentially, how can we manage customer expectations? It's under promise and over deliver. Now, the customer's expectations, they might have expectations on the customer service response time, how quickly, if they email your contact department or they phone, how quickly will they be responded to, how quickly will it be answered? Is there a service guarantee? Do you promise to deliver in a particular time frame, or are you going to come to my house to repair my boiler within 24 hours, etc.? Do you have a returns policy? Do you have a very clear pricing? So these are very, very important areas. People need to have this information. So the online buying process. How do customers process information? So they do it through exposure. If the content is not present for long enough, the customer cannot process it. They do it with attention. Can the eye and the brain pick out the information from a busy page? Research suggests that the eye is drawn to content and automatically blanks out banners and headers. So it's some banners work, but it's a lot of people will automatically blank them out. So you can't rely on that, and you will have to always test. Comprehension and perception, how the customer interprets the combination of graphics, text, and multimedia on a website. So if you have familiar designs, this will help. There's certain norms that people expect from websites, such as a horizontal navigation at the top of the website, left-hand navigation, possibly as a secondary nav. I would not put the menus of the navigation on the right-hand side of the website. The only people who seem to do that, ironically, are digital marketing agencies who do not follow their own good advice and produce things which are against what people should be are used to. You want to make sure your logo clicks through to the home page, and that's in the top left corner, etc. There's certain things that people will automatically accept. Yielding and acceptance. This is whether or not the information is going to be accepted by the customer. So, for example, in the United States, audiences are more impressed by features. In European audiences, they are more impressed by benefits. For example, if you have your widescreen TV, the US would be impressed if you said it's a 50-inch TV. It's that big. Whereas the European audiences would be more impressed by the fact that you have this cinema experience in your own home. So that's the benefit. The US want the features. So you have to tailor your messages according to the market. And retention, how well can the customer recall their experience? So you have to have a clear site design that will be implanted in the customer's memory as a mental map. They should be able to know what your website looks like. When they go back there, they'll be able to go directly to what they want to find. So how can you segment or divide an audience by community? Well, we have different types of community. For example, you can have a purpose, for example, to raise awareness on bowel cancer, or to change a government, sharing knowledge within an organization. That's the purpose, a community with a purpose. You might find that there's a position, the location where you are. You have a community, so for example, a local community website where I live, there are different things where I can find out what's happening in the area. People want to buy and sell things in the area. They're asking for advice. If people know plumbers in the area, it's all very focused on the location. And I'm not talking the city, but it's just probably a 1 or 2 square mile area. Interest, so we're talking for interest, this would be things like football or history or celebrities or cancer or digital marketing. So this is a particular interest that people have that they will get joined together in a community to talk about, to share stories, to ask for advice, etc. And the profession. Now the profession, this is the digital marketing professionals, for example, or business professors, or chief executives, or sales people. So they will connect into the by profession. Now, bear with me one moment. I'm just going to quickly have a look at this. Right, so I will give you this actually. I'm going to give this very quickly, this next slide. So it's not relevant specifically, but when you're thinking about how to identify your customers, your marketing and so on, you should think about who is your decision-making unit, who is your buying center. So this framework, the iBuild framework by Webster and Wind from 1972, talks about 6 people who are part of the decision-making unit. We can start with the initiate, and you can remember it by the acronym iBuild. So the first one will be the initiator. This is the person who says, I need a new computer in the organization. I need a new computer because this one's broken. Or it might be your boss saying, you need a new computer because I'm sick of waiting for you to open that Excel file, which takes 4 hours to open every time I come and ask you for a meeting. The buyer might be the procurement department. It might be your IT department computer. It might be a large organization. The user is you. You're the one who's going to have that computer. The influencer. Now, the influencer might be someone from the IT department, but it might be the magazines you read. It might be that you've read something in Wired magazine about this new range of computers, and you want you want to see if you're able to have access to those, or in fact that you've got a very good friend who's got a tablet, or one of the Microsoft Surface Pro tablets, and you think this is the way you need to go. Then you have the lodge keeper or gatekeeper. This would be, for example, the finance department saying, hey, you're not having a Surface Pro, you're going to have a £200 Chromebook because that's all the budget we have. And then the decision maker. Now, the decision maker might be your boss, or it might be the IT department. It could be different things. Now, this will work also with the family. So, for example, the initiator might be a 6-year-old boy saying, "Mummy, mummy, mummy, I want that toy." The buyer would be the mother or the father who actually physically puts money out for the toy. The user would be the 6-year-old boy, but the influencer might be, for example, the 6-year-old boy's older brother who is 10. And that 10-year-old might not be interested in the toy, but the advertising campaign is aimed at the 10-year-old, because if they can make the toy look attractive to the 10-year-old, or make the boy feel like it's something that a 10-year-old would want, then the 6-year-old is going to be interested in that. So you'll often find adverts which are not aimed at the user, but they're aimed at the influencer. And if you can get the influencers to talk about your product, of course, this is much better. The lodge keeper would be the mother or father who says, no, you're not having that little Johnny. And the decision maker, again, would be the mother or father. So the buying center, the decision-making unit, when you're trying to do your advertising, you do have to take into account all these 6 types of people. There's also some work has been done by Forrester, the research organization, and there's a book from a couple of years, several years ago now, called this was by Benoff and Lee in 2008, and this is Groundswell, and these are the 7 categories of people on social media and how to reach them and their influence on others. So if you pay a lot of money to Forrester, you can get all kinds of updated reports on how many people are in these categories. But very briefly then, you have creators. These are the people who do blogs, who create and write blogs, who record YouTube videos, or who post photos, etc. You have conversationalists who will comment on those blogs and the photos and so on. You will have the critics who will leave their reviews on, for example, Amazon. And obviously there's a big crossover between conversationalists and critics. There's collectors, and the collectors will simply go around collecting likes. So they'll like this, like that. They might add a star here. They don't do anything, so they just like things. They should be called likers really rather than collectors. You have the joiners who will join a community, but they don't really do anything else, but they will join a club or a community or a website. They will join their Facebook page, or Twitter page, and so on. The spectators will observe, but they won't actually do anything else. So they'll be reading. And then you have the inactives, and the inactives are the ones who do nothing. So let me see if this is going to work nicely. So I'm hoping. Okay, so no, it's not going to appear at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'll just put this across this link, which will take you through, because I don't believe you can all see this now, can you? You can't see this page, so not to worry. I will post the link there, and you can go and explore it yourselves. And it's quite fun just to be able to see. The data is somewhat out of date now, but you can still identify there very clearly that there, in some countries, there are more inactives than others, certain age more inactive, so there's no point using social media to reach people from certain demographics. And of course, the creators are the influencers in the social media world. So you might want to target your creators. If your creator starts blogging about what great product or service you provide, then that's what's going to really help your advertising campaign. Please excuse my voice, by the way, but I have a terrible cold, which is why it is getting rather coarse. So now let's go back to, silly me, I forgot I had the link here, so you can also see the link there. And go and explore that. And I believe these slides will be available to you later on. Now, we're getting on to the bit where I've explained how you build up your campaigns. We're going to go through analytics. I'm going to go through the analytics quite quickly for a very important reason, and that is because it is so incredibly complicated. And the big answer is it depends. What kind of analytics can you use? There are lots of types. Which one should you use? It depends. So we'll go through how you can try and work this out. First of all, let's look at the KPIs again. So we want, for example, in a general organization, we might have the key performance indicator would be how many inquiries or leads do we have, how many sales, what's our online revenue or our market share, or our return on investment. So these are very typical KPIs. But for online, you might have unique visitors, for example. So what would you measure with unique visitors? When you go to your Google Analytics or the provider of the analytics package for your website, you'll have a sign that says unique visitors. And what will you measure? This measures traffic, the number of people to your site, nothing more. You might want to measure, you can see conversion rates, and this will measure the conversion rate to different goals. So, for example, how many people are subscribing? So, what is the percentage of people who visit your site are subscribing to your newsletter, or are downloading your PDFs, or have checked out and purchased and have gone through to the thank you page? Excuse me. Page impressions. We have page impressions. This is traffic. Again, like unique visitors, this tells you how many people you have on your website. It doesn't say whether or not your website is doing what you need it to do. That's why you really want to think about conversions rather than how popular your website is. An important thing to remember with visitors and page impressions is it can be quite easy to get a lot of page impressions if you optimize your site saying that there's free Viagra, pornography, and pirate music on your website, then you will probably find that your traffic goes through the roof. But of course, these are not your ideal customers, unless that is in fact what you're offering. And so there's no value in itself of having a high level of traffic. It really matters what you want to do with your customer, the user on your website. You can measure pages per visitor, how many pages each visitor has seen on average. This measures the traffic as well, but also measures stickiness. Basically measures how good the content is. If the person is, well, actually we're going through a different one in a moment, but if the person is going through 5 pages of your website, that might be a good indication that they like the content. It might be an indication, of course, that actually they can't find what they're looking for. And if they keep going back to different pages, and if you see there's a very high number of pages per visitor, but they're on each page for 10 seconds, then it suggests that your design is not very good, and you haven't managed to make it easy for them to find what they want. Repeat visits. This is the number of visits per individual. So if you want this to increase, then you need to update content. People won't go back to read the same content time and again. They're not going to, if you sell products, they're not going to come back and buy the same product again, usually, unless it's toilet paper or toiletries or food or something. Most websites are not like that. So you need to update the content. You need to think about the duration of your visit, the stickiness. So again, this is how are the people on your site for 2 minutes or 20 minutes? Now, 20 minutes, again, might be good if you have content there. But if it's 20 minutes on your website and they're not actually purchasing, they're not downloading, that's not necessarily good. If you have, if your website, it makes money fundamentally through advertising, because you put content on your page, then this is going to be a good thing, is to be commended. If it's a customer services site and someone spends 20 minutes, that's not such a good thing, because it suggests they don't know how to find the information they need, for example, to return the package to your department. Subscription rates and churn rates. So these are the number of people who subscribe or churn, then it's the ones who unsubscribe as well. So do you have, for your email newsletters, for example, do you have a high churn rate? A lot of people signing up, but then a lot of people unsubscribing because they've realized after one email, actually, this is nonsense, I'm not interested in this. in which case maybe you've been telling them, giving them false impressions, false promises on what to expect from those newsletters. Click-through rate, this indicates the success of your banners and your AdWords. And bounce rates, finally. Bounce rates, this is the optimization, advertising of the, sorry, the bounce rate is when someone goes to your website, and it's usually, it depends on exactly how it's measured from each analytics package, but usually if they go to your website and they leave within 20 seconds or 10 seconds, that is, and they just go to that one page and they come off again, that is the bounce rate. If you have a very high level, a high bounce rate, this generally will indicate that people are finding you for the wrong reasons. So that maybe your ad campaigns, your pay-per-clicks, etc., or your search engine optimization are not targeting the right keywords. So, for example, people are going to you thinking you're a digital marketing agency, when in fact what you're doing on your website is talking about digital marketing from a business perspective, from an academic perspective, or in fact you're just doing experiments or you're doing homework for your particular course. So a bounce rate can be, it's generally going to be bad, and it indicates that it's bad optimization, is bad advertising. It might be though, for example, that if you have a bounce rate on your customer services page, that might be the person just wanted to find your phone number, and that's all they need. They go, they find the phone number, and they come out again. So that might be actually a positive. Now, this is from Anil Kaushik's page, his book, excuse me. This is Web Analysis, an Hour a Day. I'll put the reference on there. And the goal of the strategy is not to do reporting. Okay, data is no good without, as Anil says, actionable insights and metrics. So I have worked in an organization where the IT department came with dozens of reports on what the website was doing, and those reports were useless, completely useless, because they weren't really giving me actionable insights. And we'll go into how we do this actionable insight in a moment. But fundamentally, let me just see where I am. So this is what we need to think about. It's the so what test. Again, this is from an alpha class. So essentially, what you do is you ask so what 3 times of any key performance indicator, any KPI. So you might say, oh look, we've got very high visitors. Well, so what? Okay, well, that means that our advertising is working. Okay, so what? So maybe we can increase the amount of advertising we're doing because it's obviously good, and we can increase the spend to do things. Okay, good. So that's very useful because it's answered the so what. But if you've asked at the end of the third so what, you do not have a recommendation for action, then it is the wrong metric. So if you say, for example, visitors are up, and you say, so what? Okay, this suggests that our advertising is working. Well, that might not be the case if you measure it with the other KPI. You don't have any conversions. So what? Well, that's it. If it doesn't mean that you can actually do something to improve your site, then it's of no value whatsoever. So let me go back now to this. So these 3 areas, the Trinity, you have 3 areas to look at: behavior, outcomes, and experience. So from behavior, the behavior metrics that you can look at would be things like click stream, click density analysis, segmentation, key metrics, search intent inferences. So click stream is when people have clicked on your website, they've gone through to your website, and what have they done? So did they go to the product page, they then went through to the delivery page, they went through back to the product page, they went to the checkout, they went through and they checked out, or did they go through the product page and to customer services, etc. So you can see what people have been doing, and of course you group this together so you can see some commonalities. And that way you're able to identify, for example, if people are not doing what you want them to do at a particular point in this process, maybe it's because your link isn't very clear. Maybe it's because you haven't got a button saying add to basket or check out here, etc. So with Clickstream, you're able to identify where people are going right and when they're going wrong. Click density analysis helps you identify where people are clicking, so which are the most important links. You might find from some web reports, analytic reports, they will tell you what clicks are important, but click density analysis helps you identify on the page which ones are the best and which ones are not. And then if you have ones which are on a page which people are not clicking on, but you want them to click on them, because that's, for example, the checkout button, then again, this might help you identify or move. You might need to move it so that it is more visible, more obvious to your user. Segmentation, you can obviously identify if you have this information, depending on what you get from your different analytic packages, you can identify what types of users are coming through, and that might then inform what kinds of messages you need to do in the future. So if you are selling a software package, a project management package for software developers, and you find that 40% of your people, of the visits to your site are from female users, you might want to change your advertising so that it is not focused on male software developers, which is still the majority, but you might want to focus, also have a larger there, which makes it clear this is also a bit women, etc., just to try and make it more appealing to your segment. Key metrics and the search intent and bonuses. So if you can see what people have searched on when they came to your site, so what did they search on in Google before they came to your site, you're then able to have an idea of what they were looking for. And if you know what they were looking for, but they didn't go to the right page, then this will indicate, for example, that you have optimized the page for the wrong terms. So instead of going to the customer services page on how to return an item, you want them to actually go to the page to buy the item first, because they searched on something, but the search engine optimization hasn't been optimized. Excuse me. So now we go to orders and leads, so you can see the outcomes, the goals. So how many orders have you managed to achieve through your site? The revenue, is it going up? Is it going down? How is it going? Is it peaking? Is it going in a particular way? Conversion rates. So are people doing what you want them to do, achieving those goals on your site? Are you resolving problems? Are they going to customer services because they don't understand things? They need to find out how to return the product. And then there's the nuances of the outcomes that you will see. You'll have to sometimes just look at the data to be able to see what might come from that. And then with the experience, so you have research, customer satisfaction, A/B testing, heuristic valuations, and the voice of the customer. So here you can look at what was the experience like for the customer on your site. So this might be overall for their entire experience of your brand with a heuristic evaluation. It might be how satisfied they are. You might have something there with a pop-up saying, did you have a good time today? Yes, no. And you just get a very broad measure of how satisfied the customers were. What you can do, of course, is A/B testing. A/B testing is when you produce two versions of the same page, but you make modifications to the content. With the modifications to the content, you then places like Google will show randomly the two versions to different visitors, and you're able to then test which one achieves your goal better. So you might find by moving a link or making something bigger or rewriting some content, one of them is more likely to get people to click on it or to download the brochure, etc., etc. Quick look over here. Good. So data capture. So there are different ways that we can capture the data for analytics packages. Weblog files, web beacons, JavaScript tags, and packet data sniffers. So weblog files would happen after the fact. This is when it still works. There's these analytics packages will capture data in all these different ways. Weblog files are fundamentally when you have at the end of the hour or the day or the week or the month, your IT department will be able to go to the server and download the files with all the information, what people have done on your website, and then try and squeeze it into some kind of readable report. This happens usually long after the users are off your site. It's quite inefficient, not very pleasant, and is quite old-fashioned now. Web beacons are small items of software which you put around your web site, which would essentially flash up when people did a particular action. JavaScript tags, this is essentially what Google Analytics are, and this can provide with almost certainly it captures the data in real time, and then you can almost measure it in real time and see what people are doing in live on your site. And then packet data sniffers. Packet data sniffers are essentially a little machine that sits next to the server and takes all the data that comes through it, and it sniffs the data and takes the information from there. So, excuse me, it depends on what you want to do with your organization or as to which one of these is best. So which one of these best for websites? I will make it easy for you because it's not very easy to do the shout out as if we were in the classroom. JavaScript tags are the best ones for websites. To measure search engine robots to see what they're doing, it's weblog files. And that way you'll be able to see where the search engine robots went and where they did not go. For email, it's web beacons. So the web beacons on the email would identify, for example, that you have 1 pixel. If that 1 pixel on an email is, when you receive an email, you will usually find, if it's from a newsletter, by default you'll have usually pictures switched off, and then you have a button saying download pictures or see images or something like this, and then you do that and then you don't see any images. Well, what you've seen is 1 pixel. So by default now, to protect your privacy, a lot of email clients such as Outlook and Gmail will automatically block images, and you have to ask, yes, show me the image. If you block the images, there is no way the organization or sending the email will know that you've opened the email. If you show images, then that 1 pixel image, which you can't see, of course, is 1 pixel, by calling up that 1 pixel image from the email server from the organization, then the organization is able to say, you've requested that image. That means you've opened the email. And that means that we know you've opened it, and therefore we can follow up with further information. And which these data methods will give you the most amount of data? That will be packet data snippets, but it might be a little bit too much data. So let's have a look first here. This is from the ABMS website, and I have a question. What is the purpose of this website? Now, I'd like you to just post quickly, please, in the chat box what you believe the ABMS website, why does it exist? There you are, I'll show it to you again. And everybody's fallen asleep. Anybody there? Okay, I'll answer my own question, shall I? Dave, you're going to type something interesting for me. No, you're not. It's John. Oh, you're all typing now, furiously. Who's going to do it first? Online subjects. Walter says, nope. Provide a portal for global reach. I would say nope, but very good, thank you. Rachel, for marketing, bit better. It is for leads, I think, because I've had a look at it, and it's to generate leads. So it's partly, as Rachel said, or exactly, information to attract business students. So John, there you have it. It is to generate leads. They give you information, it is marketing, but there is a purpose here. And what is the purpose? It is to read more information, find out, sign up, sign up for more information here. once the person signs up for more information, of course, then you can sign up for a course. So it is to generate leads. When I looked at it, it might be different, but when I looked at it, you couldn't actually pay for the course online. If you could, then you could argue that it is actually to sell courses directly, but I don't believe you can. Amazon. This is an easy one. Why does this exist, please? Oh gosh. Now suddenly I think you've stopped. Right one, bear with me. So it's to sell products, thank you, Walter, yes. And let's just see if, right, bear with me, because I just realized that that's better, right. I hope you can see that again now. Yep, okay, good. So, it's just quite irritating, I can't watch you at the same time. So this is for shopping. What about the BBC? Why does this exist? News, kind of slide. Yes. So this one is for news. It's the BBC doesn't actually sell advertising. It's funded by British taxpayer. So it is a news site. There, what they want to do is generate. They want to keep you on the website as long as possible, because this will suggest that they're providing a service to you. This is something they can measure. They might want to direct you to actually watch something on the iPlayer, etc. But it's not a commercial website, so they're not generating leads, etc. Good. Let's have a look. TED. Why does TED exist? I'll show you the website again. Why does TED exist? Documentary stories. That's what they do. So I'd say yes, Ralph. I think it's it's a combination from Wendy and Ralph. It is and Yvette. It is sharing ideas, documentary stories. It is for entertainment. They do, I believe, have some adverts, but again, it doesn't seem to be a very commercial site. So it's more about providing a service and getting people to stay on the site as well as possible. What about Facebook? Why does Facebook exist? Connecting people, networking, communication. That's right, Ralph. I'm with you. It's actually to make money. It is the main. You could say it's networking communication, but basically what they want to do is they want to suck you in to the environment, and they want to then get all the information they can from you, because then they can sell you products. They can do advertising. So social networks fundamentally are there. They are business. They are not philanthropic environments, and so they are there because the idea is that you will be sold advertising. The people would advertise, they will sell you products. What Facebook are actually trying to do now is create an environment where you will never leave Facebook, and you will do your online shopping through Facebook and so on. So it is about how can they generate money, and they generate money by trying to keep you in Facebook. Once they keep you in that environment, then it's much easier to actually sell you different adverts. Alexa is a great place if you want to find out about a website, get some statistics and so on. Just go to alexa.com. Anyone, why does Alexa's website exist? Data collection, yeah. I'm not sure. I hope you were just saying that, Walter, about that one from Facebook, but Alexa does data collection, it delivers it. But this is actually, they've got some advertising, as you can see on the site. They have some advertising there on the right-hand side. And so I'd say there's two purposes to this site. One is they provide a freemium model where they will give you a limited amount of information about websites by country, category, etc. For free. And they fund this through the advertising that you see there. So they want to make sure that you visit the website and get the advertising. And then if you are a business that would like access to this data and much more data, they then have the premium version. So there are two purposes here. One is to make sure that the content is interesting for the premium users, so that they stay there and they get more, or they visit more often and they get more advertising, which Alexa can sell. And secondly, then to be a lead generator to encourage people to purchase the premium option. And finally, the last test here, so Occam's razor, this is by the author of the book on analytics that I mentioned earlier, which I strongly recommend. He used to be a Googler. And this is his website. So why does his website exist? And this might affect some of you a little more. Why does his website exist, do you think? I'll leave it there just for a couple of seconds. And no one's answering. Okay, Dave, you're going to put me out of my misery. And Rachel, who's going to get there first? Jasmine, Rachel, so educating. Yes, it's kind of educating, but unfortunately, such is life, that I don't think Anoush Kaushik is educating just for fun. He's not just providing all this information just for fun. Wikipedia aside, that's a wonderful resource. But most people, when they are providing this information, there is a reason for it. So it's not just educating. It is a blog, but that's not the purpose. The blog is the means, Walter. It's not the purpose. Jasmine, let me just see if you're going to type the magic winning words, or are you just saying, go on, chop, chop. You're on tenterhooks, Jasmine. Okay, so I'll come back to that in a minute. This website, I think it's really twofold. One, it is a marketing, well, it is fundamentally a marketing website. It's marketing because it encourages people to go and buy his books, for example, and it shows him, much more importantly, as an expert in the field. It seems like it for intellectuals, share and research topics and network them and sell services. That's it, Dave. Thank you. So it's all about selling services. So he is a very, very knowledgeable person. He's a global expert in this area. So he is, he is trying to essentially advertise himself as an expert so that you buy his book or that you engage him for speaking at your conference, for example, and you pay several $1,000s, I have no doubt. He doesn't, if you look down on the right, just behind my header, you can see his books. So it's just advertising himself. And it gives you the opportunity, if you want to hire him as a consultant, I'm sure he will not say no, so long as the price is right. So this, and a lot of the blogs that you will see and personal websites, are fundamentally the same thing. It's an advertising. And this is one of the reasons you might want to go into this yourself, set up your own website. Don't do it just because people think they are going to be really interested in you. Your mother might be interested in you. Most people are not. They will be interested in what you can do and what you can do for them. And that might help you then sell your products and services. So let's see which metrics should we use. So I've got some screen grabs from Google Analytics. Now, some of these screen grabs, all the data I have is, if you like, faked. So don't read too much into it, but I've given you just an indication for a very average website. It did exist, but it was mainly used just for experiments. So Google Analytics do change the format every so often of the the way they present the information. So try not to focus too much on that. And there's also, it doesn't matter if you're using Google Analytics or one of the many other analytics packages. Let's look first, though, at here. So which metrics should we choose? So which should we choose as the key performance indicators for our website, please? So are you able to post your answer in the chat box? I'll give you 30 seconds, please. And don't worry, Jasmine. I'm sorry that you have a problem with the network. I've had a lot of problems like that myself. So if you could just post in the chat box for 30 seconds, please, which metrics should we use as key performance indicators for a website? Oops. Okay. So conversions from Sarah, number of visits from Ursula. Time on pages, number of contacts. So, unique visitors, excellent, thank you. So what we could say is it depends. So you're all right, and it just depends on what you want. It depends on your website. So it's a bit of a trick question, I'm afraid. So remember the so what test. If you have repeat visitors, this shows the unique visitors, the new visitors, and the repeat visitors. So remember to ask yourself the so what test. What can the repeat visitors report tell us? And it tells us that people are coming back to our site because they like our site. Okay, so what? So that means that they might be interested in buying more products. Okay, so what? So we should try and develop the website so that we are selling them other products. So, for example, when you go to Amazon, they know what you've bought, so they will say people who bought this also like that because they know that you're the repeat visitor. So that, okay, there's an action. So you can start restructuring your website so that you're able to cross-sell new products to the repeat visitors, or that they really like your help section on a particular topic on your website. Okay, that's really good. So maybe we can look at doing that. If you find that we got repeat visitors are up, okay, so what? Well, it doesn't tell us anything. Maybe your website doesn't have any benefit of having repeat visitors, then don't measure it. If it doesn't help you to know that your repeat visits are up. What about the top exit pages? The graph shows you the number of exits, means nothing. If you look down below there, at the bottom of the screen, you can see the page title. So these are the pages. This is a fashion website that I was looking at. So these are fashion, excuse me, the different pages where people exited the page. So 11,000 people exited the website on men's designer fashion. So what? Oh, well, this means that they didn't find what they wanted. So what? Okay, this means we should look at, try to work out why people are on the men's designer fashion page and then they leave. Is it because they couldn't find something? So maybe we can do some further research into what people were looking for before they got to the men's designer fashion page to see that maybe they're getting to that page because they're looking for something and they're not finding it. Okay, good. So maybe we need to, after looking at this, we've got an action. We look at our clickstream metric to see how people have arrived at the men's designer fashion. Are the people coming from a specific other page on the website before they get to that one, and maybe they are getting there because they're slightly confused. Okay. Um, oops. Right. So we also have then, you can have also a bubble graph, which shows the relative sizes of the exit pages and percent of exits. There are all kinds of ways to visualize this data now on Google. They're always doing good new ways to do it. You can compare the last 6 months to 6 months ago, and that might help you. So, well, the number of exits on our, so if you can just see the bubbles there at the bottom of the page, it's not very easy, just behind the word top exit. So you can see way and above, you have most exits over there in that blue ball. There is your top exit page from men's fashion, whatever it was. But maybe you want to compare this with 6 months previously, and this will indicate to you how it's changed. So if you look now, you can see that the men's designer fashion has the percent changes down. So there's actually fewer people leaving it now. Well, this was, as you can see, 3 years ago. So fewer people are leaving it, 32% down in the last 6 months compared to the first 6 months. So good. Whatever we did in the past is working. Fewer people are leaving our page now than used to, but we still have 4,500 people per month leaving on that page rather than another one. So we need to look at why that's happening. If you look at that top one, then, for example, there's an increase in exits by 855%, up from 747 exits in the first 6 months to 7,100 in the second 6 month period. So it might be that if you actually look at the URL, this is, I believe, a search query. So people have searched on something and they haven't found it. So maybe there's a link or a search function that isn't working properly. So what does the so what on there? We have to go back and look, is there a problem in our search engine that's not working properly? Okay. So what can the top exit pages report? So I've already done that, sorry. So now we've got our top search terms. So we've got the conversion rate of top searches. These are the searches on the left-hand side that people have used in Google to reach our website. So our website is men's fashion. The website's called Glass Boutique, and there are different brands there, such as Norse Projects, Penfield, Pointer Shoes, Swedish Has-Beens, etc. And you can see what people are searching on to get to our website, and therefore the percentage of new visits. So you can ask, okay, well, so what? If you look there, so you can say, so what, that we have 3,710 visits, 3,710 on the term Penfield, and we actually can see there the revenue that this is generated. We can see the number of transactions and the average value of those transactions and the e-commerce conversion rate. So, okay, that's very interesting. So this is what people are searching on. So what? Does it help me? Well, if I know that this is what people are searching on, are they searching on the biggest searches are there? But as you can see, there are transactions. There are more transactions for Glass Boutique, or if we look at one of these other ones like Our Legacy, we had 944, but we only had one transaction. So one person bought one thing, £16.77. So why is that? Is it because we have very few products from this brand, Our Legacy? Is it because they are quite expensive compared to our competitors, etc.? So you are able to look here and start thinking, why? What's our most profitable lines? Should we perhaps start doing some pay-per-click campaigns for Penfield? Because clearly people are do come to our site when they're searching on Penfield, but maybe we can increase that. Maybe we can give people special offers when they're going for Penfield, etc. We can increase our pay-per-click campaigns or similar. Why should we use conversion rate for top search terms as a KPI? So we don't have time really to go through this, or I'll go through this and go through. So if we look for the top search terms, then as I said, look for the conversion rate. So if you can see the conversion rate here on the right-hand side, so this shows you that the search term session had the highest conversion rate of 0.71%. So that is 7 out of every 1,000 people who searched the term actually bought something on our site. Not a huge number, but it did generate revenue for us, £1,200, which is £94 average value for each basket. So that's very good. So maybe though there are some which are much lower. So if you look at Penfield again, this is a conversion rate of only 25%. So there's only 2 people, well, 2.5 people per 1,000 who searched for Penfield and actually bought something on our site. So we can think, why is that? Is it because of our pricing structure? Are we too expensive? Is it because we don't have as big a range as some of our competitors? Is it that there's a confusion on the Penfield search, so that when people see this, they think they're going for something else? Maybe there's a brand of pen called Penfield, and it's not a men's fashion one. So you can start looking at this and trying to evaluate why some of these figures are much higher than others. When you get down to the bottom one, that's a 0% conversion. So 347 visits to the site, and none of them purchased anything. Why not? Is it, again, because we're too expensive? So maybe we're able to provide a specific offer to people when they visit the site with that search term, which behind my title, I think it says CLAE. 347 people searched on it, so maybe we're able to offer a special offer, 10% off, if they purchase on that first visit. And let's see if that would work. We could do the same with water, shoes, etc., to try and increase these conversion rates. So as I said, this is the so what test. I showed this to you before. I just went back and forth very quickly in my slide deck, because I think it fell out of place, I'm afraid. So the so what test is fundamental. As I said before, what are visits? So let's have a look. Visit is accountable sessions during a given time period. So you can look at it like this. You can see all the different visits that people have made. You've got 175,000 visits over a period of time. You've got a 43% bounce rate. So 43% of those, that's approximately 70,000 people or 80,000 people, came to your website and went to one page and then came away again. This suggests that you're not very good with your search engine optimization. People are coming to your site, expect to find something else, and they're not finding it. You can also see you've got 55,000 new visits. That's good, but what we would like to see perhaps is also some repeat visits. 55% suggests that some of our advertising is working. People are coming to our website, but I want to see the return visits. Do we have people coming back time and time again? So unique visitors can be fine, but it doesn't really help us if people are coming to the website and they're going and they're leaving very, very quickly, such as this, with this bounce rate. They're only on this website, which is a commercial e-commerce website, for 2 minutes and 8 seconds. So the average visit duration means that they are not looking at much, they're certainly not buying. Now, if you have this kind of figure, but you're still making money from your website, you might think, okay, that's fine. I don't mind that I've got lots of people coming to the website by mistake, because I'm still making money. But of course, it does mean that you might be spending money unnecessarily on pay-per-click campaigns. People are clicking through to come to your website for the wrong reasons. It might be your search engine optimization needs adjusting. So in an ideal world, the only people who are coming to your website are the people who are interested in what you have to offer. And they are going to then do what you want them to on your website. They're going to complete the checkout process or download a brochure or whatever. So unique visitors are it's accountable unique cookie IDs during a given time period. Now, with the European legislation in the last 2 years, every website now in Europe has to tell you that they're going to use cookies to give you a better experience. And for data privacy reasons, people think, oh my God, this is terrible. Cookies don't make any difference. They can find out information about you with a cookie because all they find out is that you went on their website before, and then they can show you the product that you were looking at before. So when you have your cookies on your website, of course, you want to be sure that if you are able to identify the user, if they've added something to the basket, let them come back to your website and find what you have in the basket there. Time on site. We also have the average visit duration. So how much does this tell you about the site? Tells you, I've already explained this one, but a visit duration will include single page visits of less than 5 seconds. As you can see here, 2 minutes and 8 seconds isn't so bad, but it's not really enough time to put anything into the checkout, complete your credit card information and so on. The average visits generally should not include the bounce rate. So that's people who came on your sites, they didn't bounce immediately, but they still didn't do very much. But it could be an indicator that your content isn't very compelling. If you have 10 minutes, then that sounds like people are interested in what you have to offer. And therefore, if this is one of the metrics you might need to provide your advertisers to get them to come back and advertise with you more. So how is it measured? It's generally measured, the time on the site is measured between the time the session first started by the visitor and when the session ended. But some analytics packages do not correctly register exits. So it's usually impossible to know if the user walks away from the browser and leaves it open, as I'm sure many of us all do. I'm sure some of you have done that this evening with this webinar. You've left it open, you've gone away, you've made your dinner, you've come back, you've put the children to bed, you've come back, and you're catching it to and froing. And that's unfortunately the way the world works. We all do this, so we leave a website open. Does that mean that we're really engaged? Sometimes it's impossible to know this. So weblogs and JavaScript cannot tell how long the customer spent on that page. All right. Bounce rate, we've already explained what this means. It's the percent of traffic that stayed on your website for fewer than 10 seconds. Some packages will say 5, some 15, it really depends. Search phrases, ones we've discussed. So I won't go through again. And referrers. So you will not know all your referrers. So for example, if you look, no, it's not on this page, I beg your pardon. I think it's on the next page, but let's see. So when you see a referrer, for example, it will be that your visitor has an odd browser. They might not be using Safari, Chrome, Firefox. They might be using something that's a bit obscure. Or it might be that you have not been using permanent 301 redirects. This is a technical issue, but believe me, Google doesn't like it. If suddenly one of your pages, you delete a page, but you have links to that page, that would be a 301. That'd be for a full redirect. 301 is if your website actually changes your domain. Traffic from various email campaigns might not correctly pass from programs to the website. There's different reasons that the referrer might not show you where they've come from. Visitors' browsers may have high security settings. They may not have accepted your cookies, for example, either. So these reports can help optimize acquisition strategies, they can help SEO, landing pages, and they can prompt your A/B multivariate tests. So putting traffic from site X in a particular test to see if you can improve the conversion rate. So these reports will drive actionable analysis. And this is, so this shows you where they come from. If you look for go to traffic on the left-hand side, you can see that traffic sources, and then you go to referrals. You will see for websites, and if you go to search, this shows you where people have come from in terms of your organic or paid search. So this, as I say, will tell you if they've come through the organic, if they've come through your adverts, etc., and what search terms they've used. This is essential to be able to link together all your different marketing campaigns. Then also Google have a lovely thing called Site Overlay, or not every package does, but this is wonderful because this will show you where people have clicked. And you can see that some of your buttons, for example, have 0% clicks. You have a click, you have a button there with a link underneath it, and no one's buying it. So there really is no point in doing it. Maybe you need to make a different size button. Maybe you have to make sure that it's worked properly. You need to think, why are people not clicking on there? Maybe they're just not interested in that particular product. So more or less exactly to time, we'll talk about some takeaways. So as with all marketing, you need to think about your audience first. You have to be consistent and follow the standard rules for website design, and you have to test. So remember your influencers. Remember the if you're doing your advertising campaign, remember who you're trying to attract. It might not be, in fact, the person who's going to be using it. If you're selling it to a business, you might need to sell to somebody different. You need to learn the jargon, so you need to know all the CPC, CTR, PPC, etc. So when you, even if you're not doing these campaigns yourself, if you're not going through your Google Analytics and you're using a company, you need to understand what they're talking about, so they don't just try and fool you, and you're able to answer the proper questions. It's also a shortcut to making yourself understood. If you're going to your chief finance officer and saying, look, I need a budget of £10,000 because I'm doing a multi-channel campaign using pay-per-click across Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, including contextual ads. You need to be able to explain why. And eyeballs are sometimes good. Some banner adverts have their place. That's why people still do them. Sometimes you just want to get your brand there. You want people to see your brand. You know they're not going to click through very much, but it's still better. But targeted advertising, if people are searching for you, they want you. Make sure you can find them. And now, shameless plug. This is my book. It was published 2 months ago, Making Social Technologies Work, by Paul Grave Macmillan. If you go to the publisher's website, I believe they still have a discount if you put in PM, Paul Grave Macmillan, PM 1530 on the publisher site. That's j.mp/B book -D discount. Alternatively, you can go to Amazon with the j.mp, that's jump / making social technologies work with a capital M, capital S, capital T, and capital W. My surname is not an easy one to, there are not many Gruenbaum, so if you search on Gruenbaum, I'm sure you'll also find it. And now I shall go to any questions. Do we have any questions? Yes, it's also, I believe, available in USA and Canada. If you go to the Paul Grave Macmillan website, Antonella, they should have the discount, but it's certainly available through Amazon as well. Retail price in pounds, Walter. It's from Paul Grave Macmillan website. I believe it is a £16 on Amazon, £15.90, 30% off. It's approximately £11. Wonderful Christmas present. So, if there are any other questions. No, in which case I do welcome you to contact me by email, or certainly sign up with LinkedIn, follow me on Twitter, blog. I haven't written a blog in about 10 days, but I'm getting better at doing my blog more often. I have a professional Facebook account, so you're welcome to join me in all these places. In which case, there's nothing more to say except thank you very much. And I hope you all have a wonderful time with your analytics. Thank you. And now I just have to work out how to switch off. Thanks, everyone.